how many calories are in a typical Christmas dinner? And what are the main sources of these calories?
Oh, that's a good starter question. Well, it's not as easy to find the answer as you might think. There aren't an awful lot of surveys that are done on what people eat at Christmas. You can imagine if someone did ring you up and say, keep a food diary and write down every single chocolate and every single roast potato that you'd have. There aren't many people that would want to do that. So most of the information that we do have on how many calories in a Christmas dinner is based on people writing down all the foods that are most commonly eaten at Christmas. So it's probably about your day's intake in a Christmas dinner, 2,000 to 2,500 calories. And then obviously you've got all the other things that you eat at Christmas and all the snacks and mince pies and chocolates as well. So I should think that most people would have twice what they would normally eat on Christmas Day. So if you're thinking about Christmas dinner, the main culprits are the things that are fried, the roast potatoes and the cream and the brandy butter and the alcohol, and all the things that are high in fat and high in sugar.
So is it just Christmas Day that's unhealthy, or the whole festive season?
It does seem that our festive season seems to be growing in length. You know, you can go into most supermarkets and see wrapping paper and mince pies on sale in September these days. And I think that is part of the problem. You know, we want to enjoy ourselves at Christmas and indulge, but if it's going on for about a month or more, then that is a problem. And there are, various surveys to say that a lot of people do put on weight between Christmas and New Year for all sorts of reasons. We tend to do less as well, and we're sitting around on the sofa watching a lot of television.
So would it be a wise idea to gorge yourself in December but heavily diet in January?
I don't think that is a really good idea, because then that encourages a lot of yo-yo dieting, so it's much better to get the weight off. If you are worried about putting on weight, it's much harder getting it off if you've put it on than it is not to put it on at all. So I wouldn't recommend that, although alcohol's probably a different thing. It is good if people go a few weeks without drinking any alcohol if they've overindulged in December. So certainly with alcohol would recommend that they have a light January, but I'm not sure that really is going to solve all the problems with food. I think the best thing is to just make sure that you don't indulge for too long, that you have a few days of it but not a few weeks.
So do you have any top tips you can give us to make Christmas healthier without totally ruining the season?
I think about what I do at home. I make sure on Christmas Day that there are plenty of choices, so that it's not just mince pies and things laden with pastry and chocolates on offer. I always have nuts around and fruit, grapes and oranges, so that if you do have this feeling of wanting to constantly eat, at least you have some low energy dense alternatives. It's not just all about pastry. And I do have all those little hors d'oeuvres. I found Christmas tree shaped vol au vent last week, and so I've got those in my freezer. I buy all those things, but I just try and keep the portion size small and then just try and have some choice. And of course a Christmas dinner has lots of vegetables in it, so if you're laden up your plate with plenty of vegetables that haven't got butter on them or salt, you can have a healthy Christmas dinner. Also, the other thing I do is that if I have a starter, I make sure it's really light, so a salad or a thin soup, so that you're not full by the time you've just got to the end of the first course.
So what is the impact of psychology on how we eat during Christmas time?
I think there are a lot of psychological factors that come into play at Christmas, because we feel quite guilty, don't we? If someone comes over and says, "Oh, have one of my mince pies, I've made them myself, they're homemade," trying to say no to things like that is really difficult. So it's what we call the accessibility of food. It's so accessible, it's there, people offer it to you. You'd be much more likely to take a mince pie if someone came up and offered it to you than if it was on a table on the other side of the room. So it can be very difficult. But
so how easy is it to change our eating behaviours?
I think if you're thinking yourself that you are worried about your weight, then you can really concentrate on mindfulness and try and reduce the mindless eating. So just the eating that you do without thinking about it. You're chatting, you're at a party, you're talking, you've just got lots of things that are crisps and dips, and so try and think, do I need that? Shall I wait 10 minutes? I'll go and get a glass of water and try and alternate with alcohol non-alcoholic drinks and water. That's another idea.
So to a certain
slow
extent,
you down a
calorie
bit.
counting would be a good idea.
I don't think calorie counting is a good idea. No, I mean, I just think making sure that you actually slow down, and that you're not, you're not filling up and you're not hungry when you go to parties and the only thing is going to be snacks and mince pies and things. Make sure that you have something that's low in fat. So rather than calorie counting, I would concentrate really on trying to avoid the foods that are very high in fat, so things like pastry and cream, and alcohol, of course, and try and eat some more fruits and vegetables and low energy dense foods.
So is it possible to enjoy Christmas on a vegetarian or even a vegan diet?
Yeah, vegan is particularly difficult, I think. My son's vegetarian, so that's quite easy in terms of you can actually buy Quorn chicken that looks like turkey, and basically just eat everything else the same as everyone else is eating. Perhaps you need to make gravy that hasn't used the meat stock, but vegan is really quite difficult, especially if you're eating out, because you can't eat Quorn because that's got egg in it. In fact, egg is used so often in so many different products that if you're going out to a restaurant for a Christmas dinner, you would need to let them know you were going to be vegan. You don't, of course, have to stick to the traditional Christmas dinner. It's possible to make nut roasts and things like that without egg, and in a vegan way, or you can do something completely different and have a curry or something like that.
So what about a gluten-free diet?
Oh gosh, that's even worse, I think, as far as Christmas is concerned, because everything has got pastry in it or breadcrumbs. It's actually really quite difficult. So you're okay with some crisps, that's fine. But actually, for going out and snacking on things, gluten-free diet is really quite difficult. You have to buy your own mince pies and things like that. But the actual Christmas dinner, not too difficult. You just need to make sure that you don't have flour in the gravy. Use corn flour and other thickeners, things like that. Being careful of the types of Christmas pudding, or you probably have to have an alternative to a Christmas pudding if you haven't got a gluten-free version. So not too difficult, but certainly being vegan or gluten-free does need some planning.
So what is the impact of alcohol during Christmas?
I'm not an expert on alcohol, but certainly we do drink more, and we tend to drink more fortified wines and things like port and sherry. I mean, sherry's quite old-fashioned now, but things that do have, or eggnog, things that have cream added, or spirits. So those can be quite calorific and promote weight gain. So again, it's just trying to alternate them with having water or a low-calorie drink, and having just a small glass. I mean, one of the articles on Christmas dinner in the Daily Mail, it suggested that people have 4 gin and tonics by 11 o'clock in the morning. So I'm not sure how true that is, but it's easy to have a lot of alcohol at Christmas, because you're tending to celebrate for days on end. So it's just, yes, try and keep the portion size down and have lower calorie options as well.
Is a Christmas meal in some ways quite healthy with all of the vegetables and the lean meat we consume?
I think it's similar to a roast dinner. It's just that we do tend to have so many different foods, and if you have lots of different food on the same plate or offered at the same meal, you tend to eat more. It's just like going to a buffet. If there are lots of different options, you do tend to eat more. So I think the main problem at Christmas is it's not just the Christmas dinner, but it's the fact that we just eat so many different foods, and we're celebrating, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But certainly if we were to eat like that all the time, it wouldn't be good for us.